well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being with us once again here with the Palestine Foundation. My name is Amer Zahr. I am honored once again to be hosting one of these events here with the Palestine Foundation. And today, again, we are here to raise money. Let's not sugarcoat it. We are here to raise money and raise awareness for the events and activities that the Palestine Foundation puts together. There's so many different events and so many different sort of initiatives that the Palestine Foundation has put on over the years, whether it's been helping with my comedy festivals in Palestine, skateboarding operations in Palestine, mental health projects. And now this year, we're talking about water towers in Gaza. And then, of course, the amazing Mawtini Choir, a children's Palestinian choir that has been going on and building through the pandemic, an amazing, amazing project being put on by the Palestine Foundation. And so there are a lot of important organizations in our Palestinian-American community, but nothing really like what the Palestine Foundation does, bringing art to us at sustainable projects. Some of you might be familiar with the great Palestinian artist, Dalal Abu Amni, an amazing singer and protector of our culture and traditions, who also has been a partner of the Palestine Foundation as she's done many events here in America. So I couldn't be happier to be here with all of you today and with all of you as we honor and support the work of the Palestine Foundation. And I'm especially excited because today we're going to be able to have a conversation with two of the most amazing Palestinians in our world global society, Deanna Buttu and Susan Abulhawa, who we'll be talking with later, and really getting into some of what it means to be Palestinian and what this moment means for all of us as Palestinians, especially in the wake of this year's events. As some of you might know, you might be familiar with the Palestine Foundation already. The Palestine Foundation is a 501c3 humanitarian org and takes its work seriously, goes through really deep due diligence every time a project comes up. And its board and members really delve into all the aspects of any project that it is to support. And the projects that the Palestine Foundation supports are always projects that have the mission of advancing sustainable projects in education, health, habitat, and the arts, built on a strong foundation of community participation. I don't know if Susie and Deanna are here with us yet. I know that I saw them earlier, but we are going to have a great conversation with them later. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we are going to be really doing, listen. I always say this whenever I go to Palestinian organizations and ask people for money. I don't like it. Nobody likes asking people for money. But here's the reality. First of all, Palestinians are very successful. We're the most successful people on planet Earth. I know a lot of the people today are watching are Palestinians from around the world. People always wonder why we're so successful. You know, we don't just work in the hospital. We're the chief of staff. We're not just a mechanic in the garage. We own the garage, you know. And people always say to me, why are Palestinians so successful? I tell them it's very simple. It's because we don't have plan B. You know, this is the refugee life. You got to make it work. And we do. And we're very successful. And we never ever go on vacation. And people say to me, why don't Palestinians go on vacation? I tell them it's very simple. It's because we don't like to leave our house for more than 2 or 3 days. We remember what happened last time we did that. And so we work very, very, very hard, and we never take any breaks. So I know you're successful, the ones that are watching out there. So we have to support each other, and we have to support our organizations. That's number one. Number two, we're having this meeting here today, but let me tell you, there is another meeting, maybe 10 other meetings happening with other groups of people to make sure that we Palestinians never have meetings, and to make sure that we Palestinians never raise awareness of what we're doing because they're scared of us, because we're winning. And so we have to keep pushing forward. So we have to keep supporting all of our organizations as we move along. Before we get into the rest of the program, please help me welcome our first speaker, which is going to be the president of Palestine Foundation. She was born and raised in Haifa, Palestine, and in 1975, she and her husband, Karim, moved to the US, where they raised their 3 children and ran a business. She has always been a tireless activist in her community, and she spearheaded the growth of the PCRF in Southern California and is one of the co-founders and current president of the Palestine Foundation. So please help me give a warm welcome to one of our queens, Lily Karam.
Marhaba. On behalf of the entire Palestine Foundation team, I'd like to welcome you all to our annual Fall Gala. We come to you from our living rooms filled with hope that we will soon see each other in person. Today, the world is witnessing Palestine being brought to the forefront. Following the last assault on Gaza that killed 254 Palestinians, including 66 children and 39 women, the Israeli army used massive firepower and violated basic human rights, most notably the rights to life, housing, earning a living, and property. And the world did not stand by idly. Rather, everyone seized the moment and joined our cries and protested with us. Their protests were not only of solidarity, but one of shared cause and mutual pain experienced by every Palestinian. You as a community also seized the moment to continue our efforts to support sustainable projects in Palestine. Through your efforts last year, we launched the Gaza Community Mental Health Program in Deir el-Balah at a most critical time. We partnered with a number of organizations working on providing clean water in Palestine, most notably Ouena, a US-based nonprofit organization, to build a water tower in Al-Qal'a, Khan Yunis, and with UNRWA to provide clean water in Beit Hanun School in Gaza. You also helped us launch a new program, Tatriz Mawtini, which helps support women in Gaza. You will be able to see and bid on their beautifully handcrafted creations on our website through our silent auction, or visit our bazaar for an impressive selection of Tatriz. Our inspiration came from our people. We experienced the joy of being Palestinians, and we were motivated by the joy of unity and struggle. Together, we are standing firm and refusing to be intimidated by the injustices. More importantly, we are all rising in unity. Thank you and enjoy our program.
All right. Thank you, Lily. And thank you for that welcoming message. Also, I want to apologize to people if I'm coughing or sound a little raspy today. I'm actually battling COVID this week, but that is how important it is for us to be here all together. From what I understand, it's not contagious through Zoom, so everybody should be fine. But it is so important that we're all here together this week. I've been doing what my doctors tell me, and then, of course, rubbing olive oil all over my body and drinking lemon tea. These are the things that also work, apparently, according to all Palestinian mothers and aunts and grandmothers. And I feel great. Let me talk to you a little bit about the ways that you can donate today as well. You can donate by going to Palestinianfoundation.org/donate. Palestinefoundation.org/donate. Palestinefoundation.org/donate. You can always donate there, not just today, but any day. You can sign up for a one-time donation, monthly donations. If you make a minimum $1,000 donation, you will receive one of these beautifully engraved maps of Palestine. I'm hoping that'll come up on the screen as well. We don't just want your donations. We give you prizes here at the Palestine Foundation. So you'll be getting things for your $1,000 donation. You get one of those beautifully engraved maps of Palestine. You can also set up and share a Facebook fundraiser. I've done this before for different organizations. It works wonderfully. It's a great way to let your networks know how important Palestine Foundation and the work that it does is to you. So harness your networks, get everyone together, and let them know that we need to support Palestine Foundation and all the amazing work that it does. You can also make a bid on the online auction. Now, I know there might be a lot of Arabs watching this who might be not familiar with the concept of an auction because you've been bargaining your whole lives. You don't understand. In an auction, remember, we're fighting to make the price higher. I know Arabs don't usually understand this. They usually think you're supposed to fight to make the price lower, but no, we're trying to make the price higher. We're trying to raise money here. So make sure that you participate in the online auction. That's palestinefoundation.org/auction. And you can also visit the Holiday Bazaar website to purchase items from the Mawtini Choir project and other Palestinian items to put in your home or to give as gifts. So again, that's also the Holiday Bazaar website. It's a great time of year, of course, to purchase items from the Mawtini Choir project and other Palestinian items to adorn your home. That's palestinefoundation.org/bazaar. But as you've seen, of course, palestinefoundation.org. Go to that website. You can donate. You can get involved with the auction. You can buy things from the bazaar. Everything can be there to make sure we're supporting the work that we do. In fact, I want to highlight what we raised funds for at last year's event with Dr. Yasser from Gaza. That was the mental health project that we worked on last year. And the recent attack on Gaza and its effect on kids highlight the importance of mental health and the importance of supporting our people in Gaza. So I think right now we will have a short video of the community mental health program that we supported last year in Gaza. So that showed everybody a little taste of the work that Palestine Foundation does. That mental health program that we supported last year is helping countless people. And, you know, unfortunately, with the events this year in Gaza, it had a lot of work to do. And we know that our people in Gaza are stronger than ever. But it's on us to make sure that they always have the resources that they need. And all of our Palestinian brothers and sisters have the resources they need around the world. And more than that, of course, today, excuse me, we're also talking about the importance of clean water in Palestine and how Palestine Foundation is working to provide clean water to schools in the West Bank and Gaza. I know that we have a video as well that is going to show a little bit about how important clean water is in schools in the West Bank and Gaza.
Access to clean, drinkable, and safe water is a basic human right. It is more than unfortunate that for Palestinians, water is limited and totally controlled by the ongoing occupation. This is despite the fact that it is within reach and on their own land. Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza are not allowed to dig wells or explore new ways to source out clean, fresh water for drinking or agriculture. In some areas, the water is polluted by sewage and toxic waste intentionally left by the occupation. For those who rely on agriculture, there is not enough water to keep crops and animals healthy, plants die, and milk yields drop, putting livelihoods at risk. The lack of clean water causes disease and poses a major threat to human life. Some households only receive a trickle of water every couple of days, and families are rationing their water or paying substantially for a resource that everyone should have access to. Clean water is a long-term commitment, and the Palestine Foundation is taking on this commitment. The Palestine Foundation, a 501(c) nonprofit organization, supports humanitarian projects based on sustainability. We envision people empowering themselves and their communities for future generations. The Palestine Foundation gives people the means to build self-sufficient and prosperous communities. In this spirit, the Palestine Foundation has teamed up with 1for3 to teach people how to gather water, test it, and then clean it for drinking and household use, and the remainder to be used in agriculture. The work began with improving the quality and increasing the quantity of water for the Ada refugee camp, empowering residents, creating jobs, adding rooftop gardens run by women and youth, boosting recycling projects, and building water cisterns are some of the benefits. These sustainable efforts are completely owned and run by the local community, which feels empowered. In the face of an occupation, this work keeps the hope alive. The Palestine Foundation is committed to duplicating the success of the Ada camp in Al-Walaja village and at least 10 other locations, including Gaza. Your contribution means the difference between life and death, and your donation is highly appreciated. Thank you for your generosity. Keep the water flowing. Let our people thrive.
All right, and now, after watching that clip, I'd like to briefly speak about the Ouena project and this clean water initiative. One of our activists in Palestine, Amer Zahr. Hi, Amer.
Hi, Amer. Thanks for having us here today.
Good. Where are you joining us from?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay. So please, see, there's Palestinians everywhere, man. I mean, Knoxville, Tennessee, who would have thought? But tell us a little bit about the project and how Palestine Foundation can help make it happen.
Yeah, so this project has been one of our most optimistic projects so far. In the past, we've done, some smaller sustainability projects, but ultimately, and I'm gonna go ahead and kind of share my screen here a little bit for you guys. we took it upon ourselves to figure out where in the Gaza Strip, there was a need for clean water and access to water. And then this area in the Qal'a called Ghizan Rishwan, which you can kind of see here, which is a little more rural and, consists of agricultural lands, didn't have any access to water. Any water they used, they had to get it shipped in pretty much.
Wow. And so, Isam, where are you from in Palestine?
So I'm from the Gaza Strip.
And so have you been there before to where you're showing us right now and looked at these projects yourself?
I haven't recently. The last time that I personally was there was in 2007. So there was a running joke in our family where every time we would go there, we'd end up being stuck in Gaza. But so I'll be there in December to help work on some things.
Good. Well, unshare your screen. Come back on the screen with us. This work that you're doing is amazing. We want to make sure everyone out there knows how important it is to support it. Again, everybody, PalestineFoundation.org/donate. What Isam is doing is so important to everyone in our community. Isam, I've been trying to go to Gaza. I want to go to Gaza, man. Now can I ask you a question just between me and you?
Sure, absolutely.
Where are the tunnels? Where are the tunnels? I'm trying to get in. Just tell me.
Flooded them all out, Ahmed.
Just tell me. It's okay, Isam. It's just me and you. Where are the tunnels? I'm trying to get in, bro. Okay, fine, whatever.
I'll tell you what, we could switch Hawiyas because I still haven't seen the West Bank, and I'd love to see Jerusalem too. It's
funny because every Palestinian, this is what being Palestinian means, right? Is that we can never see our whole country, and every Palestinian's dream is to see the rest of his or her country. It's so crazy that this is the world we live in. Well, listen, Isam, man, we're proud of you. We love you, and keep doing what you're doing. And we're going to make sure that everyone out there today knows how important this project is and how important the work is that you're doing. Okay, thank you, Isam.
Thank you.
All right. Now, is there a video now of the Ouena project that is going to be played? Is that right, everybody? Okay, good. So please, everybody, watch this video of the Ouena project.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. منذ بداية المشروع تم تمديد شبكة المياه بطول 3000 مترا في منطقة جيزان أبو رشوان، حيث أنه طول الخط باتجاه الشرق من الحاوز 950 مترا وباتجاه الجنوب 900 متر وباتجاه الشمال الجنوبي 600 متر وباتجاه الشمال الغربي 650 مترا، حيث المسافات الموصولة تشمل المرحلتين الأولى والثانية. وأيضا يوجد 19 موزعا للمياه منتشرين في المنطقة، حيث أنه تم إنشاء 10 في المرحلة الأولى و9 في المرحلة الثانية، منهم 4 أساسيات و5 موزع مساعد، حيث بلغ عدد الاشتراكات 100 اشتراك بالمنطقة، وأنه تم تجهيز 250 عين جديدة للاشتراكات، حيث أننا نناشد المؤسسة بتوفير بئر مياه جديد وغطس بقدر 20 حصانا واشتراك كهرباء قدرته 3 فاز. وتأتي خطة التوسيع ضمن توفير مياه طوال اليوم للمشتركين وزيادة الدخل على المشروع.
أيضا نوجه الشكر الجزيل والعرفان لمؤسسة بالستاين فاونديشن على مساهمتها ودعمها في توسعة المشروع المرحلة الثانية، الذي يساعد في خدمة عدد أكبر من المستفيدين من المنطقة.
انطلاقا من دور المؤسسة الريادي ومساهمتها بدور فعال في خدمة المجتمع المحلي، مشروع تم من خلاله تمديد خطوط وشبكات مياه وإمدادات أرضية يبلغ طولها 1200 متر بقطر 3 إنش بشمال وشرق منطقة الجيزان من نقطة تواجد الخزان. جاءت هذه الخطوة بناء على افتقار المنطقة لخزان مياه، حيث يستهدف هذا المشروع المزارعين من منطقة الجيزان، كما وسيخدم عددا كبيرا من المواطنين وأصحاب المزارع في تلك المنطقة، وأيضا عددا من المنشآت الثقافية، كما أن مؤسسة تعاونا لأخيك تهدف لتوسيعه.
مشروع خزان منطقة قيزان آل رشوان، مشروع تم من خلاله تزويد الخزانات بطاقة شمسية سعتها 11 كيلو ما يعادل تركيب 22 لوحة من طاقة شمسية تعمل على تزويد الخزان بما يعادل 14 كوب مياه خلال ساعة واحدة من خلال غاطس سعته 15 حصاناً، ويستوعب أيضاً تركيب غاطس سعته 20 حصان إذا أمكن توفيره.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أنا المزارع يحيى اللحام، مزارع في منطقة كيزان رشوان. احنا بنعاني من قطاع التيار الكهربائي، وقطاع التيار الكهربائي بأثر سلبا على المية. المية بقت تجينا كل أسبوع مرة أو مرتين، وبعد اوقات ما تجيش في اسبوع كامل، واحنا مزارعين كنا نعاني من الشيء هذا، وكانت عن الخضره تتبهدل وتنشف، والزهر ما يلقحش وتنشف، الزهر ينشف وما فيش انتاج عندنا، وعندنا مخاسر كثيره.
استهدف هذا المشروع المزارعين من منطقة آل رشوان ليساعدهم على زيادة القدرة الإنتاجية من سعة 30 إلى 35 كوب في الساعة، وقد كان بالأيام السابقة يعمل بغاطس 3 حصان متبعا لشركة الكهرباء لفلسطين، وهذا ما أدى إلى تراكم السلبيات والمعيقات بسبب كثرة انقطاع التيار الكهربائي.
طبعا بعد تركيب الطاقة الشمسية توفرت عندنا المياه خلال 24 ساعة، الحمد لله فيش انقطاع المياه ما بتنقطعش عندنا بتاتا، ليل نهار في عندنا مي موجودة الحمد لله، يعني كل ما بنيجي نسقي كله متوفر من فضل الله. هذا بعد تركيب الطاقة الشمسية وحوز الماء، انه في 24 ساعة مياه متوفرة من فضل الله. طبعا تحسنت خضرتنا، تحسنت وصارت تمام افضل بتوفير المياه، وكان يعني صارت المحصول افضل وانتاجه افضل، والشجرة تعيش اكثر عمر عشان عندها مياه 24 ساعة. الشتلة الخضرة اللي بنزرعها تعيش اكثر وقت اكثر من قبل كانت مثلا بدل ما تقعد 3 شهور تقعد شهرين تنشف، يصير خلل من قلة المياه. الحمد
Okay, I see the video stopped a little bit early there, but Isam, finally, before we move on, again, thanks for everything you do in this project. But this is who we are as Palestinians. We're talking about, asking our community worldwide to fund things that would seem to be like normal things, that if a government was controlling you, they'd be the ones doing these things, right? Like this is occupation, right? When we're asking our community worldwide to help our people get mental health services or clean water, because this what it means to live under occupation, right?
Yes, and so the water project, it directly impacted 250 families. Along with the agricultural lands that you saw. Phase 2, thanks to the Palestinian Foundation's contribution, we were able to add, water infrastructure for another 250 families. And the way that looks like, and as Palestinians, we kind of have to get a little creative with the way we do things. But the water lines that you saw in the video that were being laid out came with meters, and the way that was set up was on a ability to pay basis. So, what you would receive a bill and what you can afford to pay, you would pay. This helped, ensure that there wasn't any water being wasted, and that the water well was generating revenue so that it could be sustainable long-term, cover its maintenance, the addition of solar panels that were discussed a little bit. And, we're also able to hire an employee that maintains it and upkeeps it. And so, just taking the sustainable approach, that's one thing the Palestine Foundation focuses on, is sustainable approaches. We're able to see real-time economic impacts in the Gaza Strip, along with the, access to clean water. The farmer just in the video reported, they had better crops. They were able to produce more vegetables and earn more to provide for their families. And, local workers and a local engineering firm helped set up that project. So there's economic and health benefits, as well as, the mental health associated with just being able to turn on a tap and have clean, drinkable water.
Sure. I mean, just the normalcy of it all. Again, everybody, PalestineFoundation.org/donate. Our goal today is $40,000. I think we can do a lot more than that. I saw a few of the names on the list. they could do that by themselves. I've seen a lot of your cars before too. I know you have nice cars, okay? I know that you can do this, all right? $40,000 is the goal today. We have Isam with us, Isam who knows how the system works there. He's gonna be the one. And remember, when Palestine Foundation says that we're working with Isam and we're working with a project, that means Lily and the whole team have gone through a deep dive and investigation into what this project is doing to make sure that everything, that all of your dollars are going to go to all the work that they're doing. So $40,000 is what we need today. I know we can get a lot more than that. PalestineFoundation.org/donate. Isam, again, from Tennessee, thanks, man. We're really proud of you.
Thank you.
And just one more, just please, where are the tunnels, bro? Just tell me. It's okay. I won't tell anyone. Okay, man. All right. I'll give you my number. You can text me. We'll talk about it later. Okay. All right. Thanks. All right, Sam. I love you, man. Take it easy. All right. That was Isam Al-Bahur with the Ouena project. As you saw, Clean Water Project. This is just another in a long line of projects that the Palestine Foundation has been supporting over the years. The goal today is $40,000. We're a little bit of the part of the way there so far, but I want to make sure we blow past that goal today. And now I'd like to bring on the two ladies, which are like the reason that I came today. Okay, so please bring them on the screen. I don't want to wait too long with all these long introductions. I'm gonna do their long introductions, but I just want to see both of their faces on the screen right away. We have with us, of course, Deanna Buttu, who is a lawyer who has specialized in negotiations and international law. She worked on the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations team. She was the only female negotiator during her 5-year tenure. She's been a fellow at the Harvard School, School of Government, and the law school. She's had a fellowship at the Stanford Center for Conflict Resolution and Negotiation, and she's an instructor at the Harvard Extension School. And she's originally from Canada, where she got her JD from the University of Toronto and an LLM from the Queen's University in Canada. Sorry, JD from Queen's University, LLM from University of Toronto, and a JSM. This is a fancy, I'm a lawyer too. This is a fancy law PhD. This is like, you know how many people get it? It's like the largest degree you can get in law school, and it's so annoying. And she has one of them from Stanford University and an MBA, from Kellogg Northwestern School of Management. That's Deanna Buttu. And of course, we also have with us the world-renowned Susan Abulhawa, who is a novelist, poet, essayist, scientist, mother, and activist. Her first novel, Mornings in Jenin, really took the world by storm, was translated into 30 languages, was an international bestseller, and is considered a classic in Palestinian literature. Its reach and sales has made Susie the most widely read Palestinian author. Her second novel, The Blue Between Sky and Water, was likewise an international bestseller, and Against the Loveless World was published in August 2020 by Simon & Schuster. It has come to much acclaim. And she's also the author of a poetry collection, My Voice Sought the Wind. She's been a contributor to several anthologies, political commentator, a frequent speaker. She's also the founder of another organization that I'm a part of that I love called Playgrounds for Palestine, which does what it says. It builds playgrounds for Palestine. It's dedicated to uplifting Palestinian children. And she's also the co-chair of Palestine Rights, the first North American Palestinian Literature Festival. Okay. Was that enough? Deanna, Susie, how are you?
It's so good to see you both.
It's great to see you both too.
And salamtak, Amer.
Oh, it's okay. You know, it's just a little COVID. It's nothing that we Palestinians can't deal with. Just a little coughing, a little fever, and then we'll all be back on our game. Look, we're going to really just have a nice conversation today because the theme of this event is Palestine is Rising. And what we saw this year was sort of I think we all knew it was there, but a sort of unprecedented display of Palestinian unity with everything that was happening in Sheikh Jarrah and in Gaza, where the Palestinian voice was so united this year, coming out of everywhere, whether it was Gaza or Ramallah or Jerusalem or Lid and Ramli and Akka. I mean, we just saw and all around the world. And so the first thing I want to do is sort of get both of your thoughts on that. Is that something that you felt as well? And what do we need to do to sustain that unity and success that we've been feeling this year?
You call on one of us, Amer.
Okay, fine. We'll go with Deanna first.
So thank you. And thanks to the Palestine Foundation for inviting me, and really a big thanks to Susie. I'm honored to be on this panel with you. Love you so much, and thank you for all your support these past few weeks. And to you, Amer, who, when I was in the depths of COVID, picked up the phone and told me a joke just to alleviate all of the misery that I was in. So thank you both for being not just comrades, but the deepest of friends. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Where are we? Well, Amer, it's, I tend to disagree about the issue of unity. And I'll explain why. This isn't to say that we're not united. It's the opposite. It's that we've always been united. Mm-hmm. And what Israel has always tried to do is they've spent these more than 7 decades spending time trying to divide us into these little entities and little units. Just as you said, Amer, one of the tragedies is that that as Palestinians, we can't even see the entirety of our homeland. I was fortunate enough to be able to live in the entirety of our homeland, but I'm one of the very few people who's had that it's not even a privilege, it's my right. And that right has been taken away from me and from all of us. And so for me, what happened this year was not so much a sign of unity, because there's always been unity. I can even just describe, my late father, who was born in El Mjadel and raised in Nazareth and lived in 48 through this period of military rule. He used to describe so vividly the protests that he would go to as a young man, protesting all of Israel's actions, whether it was protesting the occupation, the takeover of land in 1967, to Land Day, to then the first Intifada, to then the second Intifada. And so too, we've seen that every Palestinian has followed in those footsteps. There have definitely been attempts to try to label us something else as being, quote, Gazan or West Banker or Jerusalemite or 48er. But at our core, we're all Palestinian, and the experience that we feel of Palestine may be a little bit different, but it's still nonetheless Palestine. And whether you're living in Palestine or outside of Palestine, it's that wound of Palestine, the wound that Israel has inflicted on us, that we're all feeling. And all that we've seen over the course of these years is attempts to try to divide us into little segments, into transform us into small little problems. And then we have to be aware of adopting that language, of saying that somehow there is now unity, because it implies that there was disunity in the past, and there hasn't been. There's always been unity. I can even just speak to my own experiences. There hasn't been a single action that Israel, or crime that Israel has perpetrated in any part of Palestine that hasn't had a ricochet effect throughout the entirety of Palestine, whether it was the Great Return March and the protests that were happening there and Israel's gunning down of Palestinians there. We felt it in Haifa with protests and with the police beating us up, whether it was the takeover of houses, not just in Sheikh Jarrah, but also in Silwan, protests in Nazareth and in Gaza. and people feeling the effects there, whether it was the bombing of Gaza, again, ricochet effect into the West Bank. It's the Zionists who are trying to divide us, and we have always been united. It's now the question of how we move forward. I've gotten to the place, and I'll let Susie speak on her own behalf, where I've grown tired of having to not just explain what's happening in Palestine, but to make Palestine palatable for people. Our struggle is our struggle, and it's not my job to make it palatable for a person. It's not my job to make our forms of resistance palatable for other people to then sign on and support us. That's not my role. It's not your role. It's not Susan's role. It's none of our roles. And what instead, it's that we shouldn't be twisting ourselves into the language and the logic of getting people to support us, that somehow if we just become a little bit, maybe bluer-eyed or straighter-haired or whatever it is, better accented English, whatever it is, that somehow people will support us more. That type of solidarity is not solidarity. It's loose. It's transactional solidarity. And what we need to now be focusing on and rebuilding is that deep-rooted solidarity that we've always had that somehow slipped beneath our fingers because we were so focused on all of this other jargon and language. So thank you. Thank you both.
How do you say preach in Arabic? I don't know how you say preach in Arabic. I don't know how
This is like just one of the many reasons why I love this woman so much. Uncompromising. She's brilliant. And yeah, she's so Palestinian. I want to just echo what Deanna said, especially the beginning. It is a joy to be with both of you. I love you both enormously. In many ways, I feel like our relationships sort of reflect that, the kind of unity that, as you said, has always existed. And we think it's unprecedented when these things happen, maybe because, whether we like it or not, we sometimes internalize what our oppressors are saying about us. And we end up using the buzzwords and the language that they also use. I was just on a panel a couple of days ago for a festival in Vienna. And, the conversation was, or the topic of the panel was, Palestinian literature beyond Arabic or outside of Palestine. And one of the argument that I made was that, we tend to sort of adopt this Zionist formula where, only Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have any relevance as quote unquote, as Palestinians. And they're the only ones who have any say or any, right to vote in any political election. They're the only politically relevant. And this is a Zionist narrative of creating this center that has legitimacy. Everything outside of it doesn't have legitimacy. And then slowly eroding that center, destroying it, stealing more and more, making it smaller and smaller. And it's part of a disappearance strategy. So unity isn't just, unity for us is vital to our survival. And it exists, but I think sometimes we do adopt narratives that have been imposed on us. And sometimes there are these measures of who's more Palestinian than the other, right? But the reality is, whether we like it or not, is that the contemporary, I should say, Palestinian experience is one of dismemberment, disinheritance, oppression, exile, occupation, and every sector of our society has its own experiences of loss, and it's a different kind of loss for each group. For Palestinians in Palestine, it's a loss of freedom. For Palestinians in 48, it's a stripping of identity, maybe. For Palestinians in the diaspora, or the non-Arabic speaking diaspora, it's a loss of family, a loss of language, a loss of connection. So there's different layers of loss, and sometimes it feels so vast and endless that it's just overwhelming. But at the same time, we're connected in that loss, and we're connected, more importantly, in a truly ancient history. I mean, our history, people tend to talk about us, and sometimes we talk about ourselves in terms of our proximity to our oppressors. But the truth is that Palestine has existed, for millennia before Israel was ever, a sparkle in Herzl's eye. I mean, Israel tries to sort of claim these ancient roots, and they have this new term called ancient Israel, which is crap. It's complete crap. I mean, it's a modern day invention. And even the idea of, I mean, we even perpetuate some of this language. People will say the Jews, as if Jews of the world were ever before modern day, if they were ever united. That was never true. Iraqi Jews were Iraqi, Egyptian Jews were Egyptian, European Jews were European Jews, and no European Jew ever looked at his Egyptian Jewish counterpart and said, "Oh, that's my brother, that's my brethren." It didn't happen. So even the concept of a Jewish nation is a modern idea, and I think it's important for us to question all of the terms that are used, and the terms that we sometimes use in our own language, and ask, where did they come from? Most often they were imposed on us, and they don't reflect what is real. So I'll just stop there, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question, you both said it, that these terms that we use sometimes to separate ourselves are terms that are brought upon us by, I don't know, negotiation with our oppressor. They're not, I mean, when Deanna told the story of her father again, it reminded me that he was what they would call internally displaced. One of these weird words that they came up, my grandfather was somebody who they called a present absentee, because, I mean, so, but we don't use these words. This is not who we are. We are Palestinians. We know who we are. You know who we are? We're these people, okay? We're these people that can do this. I mean, I don't know why they still think they can get rid of us. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you got to feel bad for these people. I mean, they've tried everything. And and now they're trying more, Deanna and Susie. They are, I've been called a lot. I've been called a comedic terrorist, like a laughter terrorist. I'm sure Susie has been called a literary terrorist. Maybe you've been called the legal terrorist. Anything that Israel doesn't like, they call terrorists. And now they've picked these 6 Palestinian human rights organizations and have called them terrorists. So, maybe a quick advice to everybody out there listening today. What would be your advice as how to deal with this, situation when it comes up, and how to deal with talking about it to people, these 6 human rights organizations who were deemed as terrorists by the Israeli government? Why don't we go to you first again, Deanna?
I'm proud. My legal background, or my legal, let's say, when I first got the first job, the first legal internship that I ever had was at Al-Haq. It was and I'm very proud of that. And in fact, at the time that I was at Al-Haq, the current executive director of Al-Haq, Sha'wan Jabarin, had been in prison under, again, think of the terminology that they use. Administrative detention. Administrative detention means that they throw you in prison without ever knowing why you're in prison, without charge, without trial, without anything. And they can renew it time and time and time and again. At the time that I was an intern at Al-Haq, Sha'wan had entered into his 11th year under this system of being thrown in prison without trial, without charge. And so that's what terrorism is that they wiped away 11 years of this man's life. And they wiped it away because in their minds, time doesn't mean anything to us. It's only important to them. That we don't mean anything to them. Our lives don't mean anything to them. It's only important to them, and all that matters to them is their quote unquote security. I'm one of, I want to say hundreds, but it might be less than hundreds. Let's say dozens of people who got their feet wet or who were introduced to Palestine through Al-Haq. And if you add the other organizations, we are definitely in the hundreds of Palestinians, and not just Palestinians, but individuals who came and learned about Palestine through these organizations. I can say again, just my own behalf, Al-Haq was and still is not only the place that took me in, but they were like a second home. They were very patient with my legal arrogance and my legal stupidity. They were very patient with my political arrogance and political stupidity, and brought me and others along in ways that I've never seen any other organization or individuals do for others. Because at their core, these organizations aren't just about one person or one case or one whatever, but it's about building a society and sustaining a society, building activists and sustaining activists. And it's been a university, it's been a school, a university, you name it, for so many of us. This is the reason that Israel's trying to shut them down. Right. Is because these organizations are actually effective. These are the organizations that are trying to bring people like Benny Gantz to justice, whether you believe in the legal system or don't believe in the legal system. What matters to Israel is that they don't want their name tarnished. They don't want people to go after them. So it's not at all surprising that you see that they're going after Al-Haq, an organization that's trying to bring forward a case against them before the International Criminal Court, or Damir, which has represented thousands of Palestinian political prisoners and is currently representing many of the political prisoners who are on hunger strike. One of them in his 129th day of hunger strike. I can't go 129 hours without eating. Imagine 129 days. Or DCI, who represent Palestinian children who are oftentimes picked up in the middle of the night. I'm sure many of you saw the video of soldiers taking a picture of these children and saying to them, pose and say cheese. That's the work that DCI is doing to try to make sure that these kids are actually protected and that they have a real childhood, even under the face of a brutal occupation where it seeks to erase them. So the reason that they're going after these organizations is simply for one reason, because they can, because nobody is willing to stop them. Nobody's willing to say to them, enough is enough. And instead, people, they hide behind this label of terrorism. And suddenly when the terrorism label comes, with the exception of Amer and Susie, who don't go jumping and don't go hiding, a lot of people go and hide. I mean, many of the people on this call as well. I'm being a little silly, but this is their point, is that they're trying to silence not just these individuals and the organizations, but they're trying to create fear so that once again they can come forward and say, you're either with this camp of the acceptable form of resistance, or you're with that camp with the unacceptable form of resistance. And of course, they're the ones who are given the opportunity to label which resistance is acceptable and which resistance is unacceptable.
Yeah.
I'll let Susie jump in from here.
No, I mean, and I want to ask Susie something else actually, but you're exactly right, Deanna. I mean, they come after, yeah, I mean, they're watching this call too. I mean, by the way, a quick shout out to all our uninvited guests from the FBI, CIA, and Mossad that might be watching. You know, thank you for joining us. Thanks for coming to our party. If you'd like to donate, it's PalestineFoundation.org/donate. But Susie, I wanted to ask you a little bit about what kind of sort of meaningfulness and effect that the hunger strikers have on you, and how you compute it and how you think about that. I mean, Deanna was talking about Kayed Fasfus, who is now 128 days. You know, I look at this stuff. I've told a joke on stage before that is like, you know, this shows their weakness. You know, you don't go on hunger strike unless you believe what you're doing. I mean, you don't do this to make it's not a political show to go on hunger strike. You believe in what you're doing, and it shows the weakness of the Israelis. Like, right, we always say they're so smart, but they're not. I mean, you can't convince a guy to eat, like an Arab guy. Like, do you know how easy it is to get an Arab guy to eat? It's not that hard. You know how many times I've been convinced to eat and I didn't want to eat, you know, like, and they, you know, these guys want to eat. So what does this show, and we see it every couple years, this sort of horde of hunger strikers, what does this mean to you and mean to the Palestinian people?
So, you know, earlier when you said you kind of feel bad for them, and in a way, think of this. I mean, here you are, this nuclear power. You have all the military junk in the world that you can, all the death technology, the surveillance technology, the suppression technology, and you are completely and utterly humbled by a defenseless man who has been reduced to a quarter or half of his weight, emaciated, and think of, I mean, it's beyond David and Goliath. I mean, it's hugely inspiring, and there's, you know, there've been so many of these hunger strikers who have lasted over 100 days, and it's extraordinary. And like Deanna said, I mean, I barely make it through Ramadan, you know, and we get to eat at the end of the day. But it demonstrates a couple of things. Number one, just the will of our people, and not just our people. It is a universal human impulse towards liberty, to not be controlled, to prefer death over oppression and your continued humiliation, your continued denigration as they do. Our denigration as individuals, as neighborhoods, as a society. They see that power in us, and it must be terrifying to them, because they have no defenses against that. They have no defenses against this very primal impulse toward freedom, but also not just towards liberty, but towards our own indigeneity. They hate that. They hate that we are indigenous. They hate that hummus is ours, that falafel is ours. The falafel is actually an Arabic name. They hate that because they claim it as theirs. They claim they want that ancient relevance that they don't have. They don't have the pictures of their parents and grandparents and great grandparents. They don't have those on the lands, and they hate us for it. Ultimately, these are those are our weapons. That's our power. Our power is in our roots. It is in our collectivism, and it is in it, and it has to be. And as Deanna said, not cowering before this, not trying to explain it, not toning it down, so people can can take baby steps towards seeing our humanity. That isn't, as Deanna said, that isn't our job. And I wanted to say something about too the earlier question about the, you know, the 6 organizations. You know, Israel made up so-called intelligence, and they submitted it, you know, I guess to the EU, and a lot of it was just doctored, and it was revealed that it was doctored. And it's extraordinary the level of arrogance that they have to just make this stuff up and expect the world to believe it. But it's in part because they've been doing that all along, right? They made up this whole thing of a people without a land, or for a land without a people, and the world swallowed it. They made a couple of Hollywood movies to convince the world, and their Hasbara has been so successful. But it hasn't been lately because of organizations like Al-Haq and DCI and Al-Damir. And that ultimately, I think, is their real threat. Israel doesn't care how many reports they do or how many things that they record, as long as nobody's watching. And that hasn't been the case now because, number one, they cannot control the world's access to information the way that they used to. I mean, they've been working hard with their deals with Facebook and with Twitter and Google on what you can, and Wikipedia. But it's still out there, and it's out there because of organizations like this. And that's ultimately, you know, that's the big threat, is altering their narrative, altering this image that they want to put forth of being the victims of the people that they're destroying. And, you know, they did the same thing with that, doctoring that report about the building in Gaza that housed all these international media outlets when they bombed it. And they, you know, I guess Biden had demanded intelligence on, you know, for them to show them the intelligence, like, hey, how, you know, show us proof that Hamas was operating out of here. And they doctored that report. And now that was a big bombshell report in Haaretz that the report they submitted to Biden was doctored. I mean, can you imagine?
I mean, yeah, I mean, look, they've lied about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I always tell people, you don't need to answer Zionist arguments. You know, they can all be responded to with either like, that's a lie, or that doesn't matter, and sometimes both. And you know, they stole everything. You know, as a comedian once said, "Akhaduha mafrushi." You know, "Akhaduha mafrushi," and they're still "Abbakhduha mafrushi." They're still trying. All right. Well, I'm getting alerts that you know, we're talking for too long. So let me leave it back to the both of you for like a closing, maybe message to all the audience about, you know, why you're here today supporting Palestine Foundation, and a last message of sort of, you know, where we go from here, and the continuing struggle for Palestine. What do you see is the best sort of tools for us to move forward in the short term? And maybe like each of you, like a minute. I know you could write a thesis on this, but like each of you for a minute. Why don't I start with Deanna and then Susie?
I'll be short. Look, Palestine it's got its ups and it's got its downs, but it's always continuing. And as my parents have always taught me, Palestine بدها نفس طويل. It needs a long breath. And these the Zionists, they've made it their mission to wipe us off the face of the earth. We need to have that long breath, that sustainability, that consistency, to be able to stay on our land, to survive and to thrive. And this is why I think it's so important for these projects, small projects, bigger projects, to be consistently funded. You're right, Ahmed. It is Israel's job to be making sure that we get water. It is Israel's job to be making sure that we have all of these institutions in place, but they don't want to do it because they don't have to do it because nobody's pushing them. So it's our job as Palestinians to have that long breath, to have that long vision and to be able to sustain one another, particularly in those times where we need to be lifted. It doesn't require a flash in the pan, some new news reel or news item to happen. It just requires us to be consistent, to be always there for one another, holding each other's hands. And we will survive. We will make it. We will succeed. I know we will. I could tell you 100 stories about how the Zionists cower when they see my mother and I picking sabr or picking luf or picking akub or picking khubbezi, and they freak out by it. They freak out at the sights of a woman in hijab picking some fruit that is of the land. And this is why I think that we have to take that long-term vision, that long-term view, and continue to hold each other's hands so that we can survive and thrive together.
Yeah, I completely agree about the nafas tawil. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I love these water projects because, as most of you know, the water in Gaza is not consumable anymore. It's not fit for human sustenance because it is so salinated and polluted. The groundwater is. At the same time, so you know, we have a sort of a dual responsibility. On the one hand, a responsibility to help sustain our countrymen and women in Palestine who don't have many options, who can't control whether or not they have clean water. And so we have that responsibility to create these projects. We also have a responsibility that and this is where I think a lot of Palestinians in this country sort of shy away from, but to be politically engaged, to give your money to resistance activities, not just charitable activities, but to resistance activities. We have every right in the world to resist by any means possible. And it doesn't have to be something that breaks the law. I'm not suggesting that either. But I know that a lot of Palestinians in this country will shy away from being politically engaged or contributing to organizations that are politically engaged, that are lobbying, that are bringing lawsuits, you know, or who are giving money to organizations in Palestine that are engaged in work on the ground that isn't necessarily charitable. For example, like Ad-Damir and Al-Haq, and but also BDS, and you know, and other resistance. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Susie. Thank you, Deanna. Just, you know, I love you. So thank you very much for being with all of us here today and for supporting the Palestine Foundation. I can't wait to see all of you again very soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Again, that was Deanna Buttu and Susie Abulhawa, one of our top legal advocates and political advocates, and one of our top literary advocates and figures with us here today, talking about Palestine, our future, and what is the important work of the Palestine Foundation. So let me make another pitch again. We're here today to support the work of Palestine Foundation, and especially this clean water project that is being put on by the Ouena project. We heard earlier from Isam Bahur, who is helping put this together in Gaza. Our goal today is $40,000. I know we can go way past that if we haven't already to make sure that this project happens. So please, again, PalestineFoundation.org/donate. Also at PalestineFoundation.org, you can find other ways to get involved through the auction, bazaars, all different ways to get involved with the Palestine Foundation. So PalestineFoundation.org. It doesn't stop when we end this event. You can donate at any time. You can donate again. You can share it. You can start a Facebook campaign with your friends. The point here is to make sure we are always supporting the work of Palestine Foundation. All right, now it is my pleasure to introduce one of the jewels of the Palestine Foundation, and that is the Mawtini Choir. The Mawtini Choir is, I'm a little biased because my niece Huda is part of this choir. It's one of the most amazing projects that has been put on by the Palestine Foundation. Oh yes, and if you could please welcome all now for a short message about the Mawtini Choir from its director, Mr. Sami Asmar.
Actually, I'm going to do it because he's not there. He's not here.
Okay. Well, thanks. Well, then let me introduce Rhonda Issa, another person associated with the Palestine Foundation. Go ahead, Rhonda, hit us.
Okay, so Sami Asmar, who's the director, couldn't be here, but this project began about a year ago, in which we brought children on Zoom to learn Mawtini and other Arabic songs. Many of the children were not even, they didn't know the language. They knew it only at home. And so we had a chance to bring about 15 kids to the organization. And they met on Zoom for about a year, and now they're meeting in person. And the purpose of the event, the purpose of the Mawtini Choir is to teach them about cultures, to teach them about language, and spread the amazing work that the Palestine Foundation is doing with regard to sustainability, sustain our culture, sustain our hope. And these kids are amazing. I love Hada, I love all the children, and I love being the team auntie. So we now have a short clip from Ramzi Abu Ridwan, who is working on, he sponsors a music school in the Palestinian refugee camps for children to learn about music. And the plan is for us to partner with them later on. So imagine having kids in the United States and kids in Palestine singing together on Zoom, but hopefully one day, inshallah, in person.
Marhaba, hello everybody. My name is Ramzi Abu Ridwan, musicians and composers and leader of several ensembles in Palestine and around the world. I send this small message on video to say that I am so proud of the Mawtini Choir and this beautiful creative project for Palestinian children. Remember that you are the ambassador in the US and you carry the tradition of our beautiful arts. I had to overcome many obstacles growing under occupation, so take advantage of the opportunity that you have to grow in and pursue any field that you love. Love to all of you. Sing Mawtini.
Okay, thank you, Ramzi. And please, let's watch the kids together and let's watch some of the actual work of the Mawtini Choir.
Smile, smile. Let me see your teeth. Oh, good job, everyone.
Bye.
Photo. Stay with them. Hassan.
So,
Hassan, stay with them and take a photo for you guys.
okay.
All right. I know we're going to hear a little bit more from the Mawtini Choir and a little bit from Dalal Abu Amni, hopefully at the end of this event. But again, don't forget, we're here today to make sure that we support the work of this great institution, Palestine Foundation. That's why Deanna came here today. That's why Susie came here today. That's why I came here today. And that's why Isam has been putting all this work forward with this great clean water project in Gaza. So again, PalestineFoundation.org/donate, PalestineFoundation.org/donate. At the PalestineFoundation.org website, you can find other ways to get involved too, through the auction, through the bazaar. Start a Facebook campaign with your friends. There's so many ways that we can make sure that we support the work of the Palestine Foundation as we move forward in making sure that Palestinian voices are heard, that sustainable projects are supported, and that our people always have the dignity that we deserve, because living under occupation, if it doesn't mean anything else, it means that they are trying to take away our dignity every day, and we will not allow it to happen. PalestineFoundation.org/donate. Make sure you go to that link and share that link with all your friends. It doesn't have to end today. All right. So please help us celebrate our culture. Let's hear a little bit more from the Mawtini group and maybe a little bit from Dalal Abu Amni as we go. But this is my chance to tell everybody, thank you for joining us today. I love you all. I love you all. Support each other. Love each other. Remember, there's a lot of events going on in the world today. A lot of other people having parties to make sure Palestinians never speak up. We have to support each other and love each other as much as we can to make sure that our projects are always going through. PalestineFoundation.org/donate. Don't forget, do that one more time. Everybody, I love you. See you all soon.
Thank you, Amer. Thank you, Salamtak.
Thank you so much, Randa. And listen, it's my honor and pleasure to be with you. As long as I'm breathing, I will be here with all of you.
Right, and we'll play some more Mawtini as people stay. We would love for you all to stay and listen to some more Mawtini.
Yes, don't go anywhere.
I'm Amer Zahr from the Mawtini Choir, and Raya is going to sing for us كلمة حلوة وكلمتين for the leader. She's accompanied by Ustaz Hassan Minawi on the keyboard and Ustaz Suhail Kaspar on percussion.
Good night, everybody.